Welcome to Mallet and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallet. Today, our guest is Sirenna Cumberland.
Yeah, they just named her as the Director of Safety for DSISD.
Yes, she's been a longtime friend of mine, neighbor in the hood.
28 years in law enforcement. So
yes.
We're going to get her in here in a few minutes. Run by the Creek, about a week and a half ago, just had the Run by the Creek, the 5K, 10K that I put on with a great group of friends. We've put on for the last 11 years.
Yeah, it was cold because I was in bed.
Yeah. Apparently, actually, we had about 100 runners not show up. So apparently there were a lot of people stayed in bed that day. But the people that came out had a blast.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite days of the year. We love it. It's a lot of work. Takes us 6 to 8 months to pull one of those off. But when we get to race day, we all remember why we do it. And it was a lot of fun.
You had Chuck Norris water too.
We did. We had Chuck Norris water right from a spring under Chuck Norris's ranch.
That's pretty awesome.
Sea-Force water.
One of the other things, one of our coworkers here said, what was going on in y'all's office? The whole office smelled like bananas. I came in here and I was like, oh, that would be the 4 tons of bananas we bought.
did. We had a ton of bananas and we gave a lot of them away because when it's cold, people don't eat as much after a run. So we threw them all out in the field and there's like 500 deer out there today.
They're getting their potassium.
Yeah. So daylight savings time is no more. So you know how daylight savings time work. In the summer, it's daylight savings time. And then a couple weeks ago, we turned off daylight savings time.
Wait. I thought now is daylight savings time.
No, daylight savings time.
So is this what is going to be
the normal time?
So it's going to get dark at 5:30?
Well, there's a big push right now in the States to do away with the time we have now, to stay on daylight savings time. So
I didn't think it was passed.
No, it has not passed.
Okay. A
bunch of states and Alabama, Colorado, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, a list goes on. The presence of Texas is pretty big to me. Texas hasn't started working on this yet, but they have all passed laws that when the federal government says they'll do away with not being on daylight savings time, so keeping daylight savings time permanent, then all these states will join in. So I guess that's like a show of support to the federal government. It's like, hey, you can finally do this. This list I have is probably 20 states. So, but Texas, please get on board. This time change thing is so archaic. We got to get past this. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it is. It is confusing because I have a friend of mine that lives in Arizona and they don't
do it. Yep.
And so it's always
one more reason to live in Arizona.
But I never know what time it is when I call them. It's like, oh, are we following? Am I 2 hours, 1 hour? I don't know.
I know.
So,
well, apparently, amongst the things that happen when we change the clocks, productivity at work, both times, twice a year, goes way down, which is stupid if you're doing it. People say they're doing it to help people get to work in the light or whatever. But deer crashes go up tremendously. So people are out driving, I guess. I don't know. I guess they're driving home when it's darker and the deer are more active. So.
Well, a deer almost unalived itself in front of me this morning on the way to work.
Wow.
It scared the crap out of me.
Yeah. But anyway, I hope that we do away with that soon. Every time we do it, I feel like we're a bunch of cavemen living in the way back times, and we just can't get ourselves out of this hole where we change the clocks twice a year. There's no reason not to do it. To stick to go back to one time per year. What do you got going on?
Well, what's on everybody's mind or most people's mind right now is kind of like election integrity, right?
Yeah.
And, Steve, there's a difference between talking crap about a person and talking truth about a crappy person. Right?
Ooh, I like that.
So,
that just reminded me we didn't do our isms.
Well, that was my ism.
Oh,
that was my little ism.
Can I do mine then real quick?
You do your ism.
Okay.
Because mine rolls into what we're talking
and Michelle Lewis, who taught me the meaning of plethora. And that means a lot.
A lot. I can't say a lot. I can't spell a lot, but I can say plethora.
It's a plethora. It's a lot.
Along with the political climate right now, something very interesting happened in Hays County, the last election cycle that we just had. A 30-year experienced Hays County district clerk. Now, she hadn't been in the position for 30 years, but since 2010.
She'd worked for that office for 30 years.
For 30 years, or had experience in that position. Beverly Crumley lost her election. She ran as a Republican. She has lots of experience, lots of knowledge. She's the financial officer of the district clerk. No, that's what they do. She's the financial officer of the district clerk. I mean, it's like, what does a district clerk do?
Well,
right?
I think they're in charge of the docket for all the court cases in Hays County, right?
Yeah, they're the
Hays County Courthouse.
They're the jury manager. They're the financial officer of the district clerk. They manage court registry. They preserve historical records. They invest in funds.
It's
minors win and losses.
Office.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need a lot of experience
for the county. It's a very important office.
So a 19-year-old that just graduated from Dripping Springs High School, Avery Anderson, ran as a Democrat and beat her.
You're kidding. I did not know about that.
A quote from him basically states, a lot of people, generally speaking, just click D or R when they are in the voting booth, and they do not do any of their research. I feel like a lot of voters did not research the local races to gain knowledge on the qualifications of the candidates. This is a quote from Beverly Crumley. I think it is uninformed voters just making decisions based on a political affiliation is what it is. And
that's actually scary.
It's very scary. And this kid, his background, he just graduated 2021 and he worked at a gas station. I think that
I mean, you can get a lot of job experience working at a gas station for a 19-year-old kid. It's a great place to start, but you don't want somebody that's in charge of such an important office with no experience.
Well, no. And he's going to start off at $87,000 a year. Wow. He has no degree. I don't even know what his GPA level was. I don't know if that matters. I mean, I wish the kid all the luck, but I think this county did a grave mistake in in electing this kid. And apparently a lot of Beverly Crumley's coworkers feel the same way because they're resigning. Is that what
you're saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're resigning. And
so that big picture on that's actually kind of scary. That means we have people that are completely uninformed going in the voting booth and making the choice based on nothing else other than what the letter is behind the person's name. That's like, basically choosing by what their name is. You're not putting any thought or time into choosing these offices.
No, I call it like picking them like racehorses, like racehorse names. Yeah. Oh, that's a cute name. Or, oh, look at that. There's no thought process that goes into it. This kid spent $0 on his campaign. I don't understand what people were thinking. I guess.
I don't get that either, Michelle. That's actually scary.
Well, she has 10 years. She spent 10 years as VP. This is what I was looking for earlier. 10 years as VP of the Texas District Court Alliance. Her resume, it reads like
she was super qualified.
She reads
for
like
the
a
job.
playbook.
She should
for
still
district
have that
court.
job. It's almost like maybe we need to do away with
elections?
These types of no.
No. Elections for that position.
Well, maybe not elections for that position, but having to declare a party for that position because it really doesn't matter, does it?
No,
You want the most qualified person on the job. That's what you want.
Yeah.
I would actually think a large percentage of the people that clicked just because there was a D after his name will probably regret that they did that.
Well, maybe when they're faced with jury duty or whatever.
That office may completely fall apart.
That's what I'm worried about. I don't know what any type of repercussions, how they rectify that. I guess he gets to stay in there.
He does not understand the type of pressures that are going to come his way.
No, and
he's not prepared for that.
We talked about this before when we had Elaine Brown on, who was running for judge of the mental health court, and she won that election. By the way, she ran as a Democrat. But we did have that discussion. It's like, why are you declaring a party on a position that's so important, such as this? And so
when she's just there to oversee how the laws are used in court, you don't need to have a D or an R behind your name for that.
No. Well, I think this should be interesting. I think I'm gonna follow this quite closely to see how this works out. I would be interested in maybe trying to get him on the podcast.
I think we should.
And see what he has to say for himself. And, he wasn't as experienced. He knows that. But he feels that he's going to be confident in his new role, going into the new role.
Well, you were telling me that he said something about he knows how to work with people.
Yeah.
Well, is that your only qualification?
Well, he has ambitions to run for Texas state office one day, and he thought it would be a good idea to start at the county level. And there's a lot of offices that you can run for at 18 years old. I thought that the one I could help the most and the one I could serve the public the best would be the office of the district clerk.
Well, let's not jump to conclusions on him. We'd love to get him on the podcast and have him tell us for himself why he thinks he's the best person for that job.
Absolutely. Let's bring him on.
I got a little lighter story for you.
What's that?
The country's largest Buc-ee's is about to break ground in Luling.
Ooh.
It's going to be 75,000 square feet.
Have you ever stepped foot in a Buc-ee's?
I have been in a Buc-ee's, and I go right for the bathroom, which are great because there's so many urinals. You don't have to stand next to some smelly guy. You can put like 2 or 3 urinals between you.
And that's it? You just went into the bathroom?
I don't think I've ever bought.
You're an anomaly.
I might have bought gas. I might have bought gas.
I don't think I've ever spent less than $100 at a Buc-ee's.
Oh, I bet.
Because Buc-ee nuggets and
barbecue, fudge,
I'm telling
kolaches,
you, if we had a Buc-ee's here in 290, I would eat there all the time. Oh, the Buc-ee beaver nuggets.
So
yummy.
Yeah, their barbecue can't be as good as Pigpen barbecue.
No, it's not, but it will work
on
in
a road
pinch.
trip. It'll work. Huh?
When I was remember when I was taking that EMT class in Bastrop, and I was there twice a week.
Yeah.
That's where I ate dinner twice a week. Was at Buc-ee's right there in Bastrop.
Yeah.
So
and I don't think that's a huge one.
You want to know that's strange about Buc-ee's though? And you probably don't notice this because you just go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I do.
There are no places to sit and eat inside or outside. There are no tables. So they've got all this great food.
They just want you to come and go.
I guess they want you to come and go. And of course there's like the Buc-ee Mall that you have to hit you have to walk through everything. But
I see a lot of people wearing Buc-ee's t-shirts.
Oh, heck yeah.
It's like a weird...
It's a phenomenon. It's a beaver
That's
phenomenon.
A great word for it. So this store is going to be 75,000 square feet. Our HEB here in Dripping Springs is 68,000 square feet.
It's legit.
It will be bigger than our HEB by almost 10,000 square feet, 8,000 square feet.
Next time you go into a Buc-ee's, I implore you, do not just go to the bathroom.
Go walk around.
Walk around. Do a walk around. Do a walkabout.
I will do a walk around.
Yeah, do a walkabout. You're going to be shocked. And I think you're going to walk away with some Buc-ee beaver jammies.
Oh, no, I'm definitely not doing it. But that store is going to have 120 gas pumps and 200 employees. That is a gigantic store.
Well, their pay
You know a lot about Buc-ee's,
I love
Michelle.
Buc-ee's. I'm a Buc-ee fan. Their pay is very competitive. Also, I think they start them out like $21, $22 an hour.
Are the employees happy like employees at Chick-fil-A?
I think they are, but I think I've heard some kind of strange things. They're not allowed to really, I don't know if this is true or not, but there's really no place for them to sit either. So they stand on their feet a lot. But I mean, look, when you walk into a Buc-ee's, how many Buc-ee employees? There's like 30 employees in there and they're constantly.
You know what? There is about 80 places to sit in Buc-ee's.
In the toilet.
In the toilets.
They are the cleanest toilets. So when I would go to Bastrop and I would change in my uniform, in my Coast Guard uniform, I would change in the Buc-ee's bathroom, and it didn't gross me out because I swear there's somebody in there that every time you come out of the bathroom,
they're in there cleaning.
Yeah.
It took the old gas station. Remember the old gas stations where you'd go in there and they'd give you a little key on the keychain.
Yeah,
and you go in the back and you'd be like, it's disgusting. There's things growing on the wall, and it's taking it to a whole nother planet, a whole nother level.
Well, kudos to Buc-ee's. Bring Buc-ee's to Drip. That's what I say.
Oh, God.
I'd rather have Buc-ee's than Walmart.
I don't think we're ever going to be on enough of a main line to get a Buc-ee's here.
We could get a baby Buc-ee's.
A baby Buc-ee's. Yeah. I'm all up for that.
So we're going to have Sirenna on here, and I kind of wanted to ask her this question as well. But you know that military and law enforcement are really having some recruitment and retention issues right now. I just saw that the Coast Guard is offering a $50,000 signing bonus.
Oh, man.
But it's for a CS, which is culinary specialist, which is basically the
kitchen, the cooks. They get $50,000 to sign up.
But you're a rescue swimmer. You don't get shit.
No, really?
I don't think Tate got anything when he re-upped his contract. Yeah. I don't think he got it. Yeah, he didn't get anything. But who wants to sit in the galley on a ship constantly?
Well,
but
that's true.
And I kind of understand the law enforcement retention issue that this country is facing, but it's it's becoming a real issue. And I think that communities should really kind of come together.
Who would want to be a police officer right now?
Well, when you have your politicians
in the city, I think
screaming defund the police constantly.
Yeah. I think, places like I've talked to Constable Hood on Sunday. Him and 6 or 8 constables come out and help us for the Run by the Creek. And I think it's a pretty good job out here. I think most people out here in Hays County appreciate what they do, but in the city, that's a thankless job. Well, I think it doesn't matter how good you do your job. There will be somebody that will be critical of how you're doing it.
Oh yeah. No doubt. And I think there's a couple of reasons why this is going on. Of course, the climate, the law enforcement climate that's going on. There's a rapid increase this is both military and law enforcement, retirements and resignations. There's fewer people that are applying. The COVID-19 requirement for the military,
that was ridiculous.
That stopped people from either
since
joining.
Been repealed, right? So they were
not in the
military
yet.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
So that's still a point of contention right now.
So there are still people in the military that have not gotten the jab,
that are being forced retirement.
Forced out.
Yeah.
And in a military where we don't have enough people to serve.
And there's still police officers that are being forced to retire because their department in whatever city is requiring that. Of course, we talked about the negative portrayals and attitudes towards police. Cracks me up. The lengthy and difficult entrance requirements. Okay, I'm sorry. But one of the things I did read was why the military, the Army in particular, is having a really hard time in recruiting people is because kids are fatter and unhealthier now.
Oh, well, I believe
and
that.
And they can't pass the requirements. I'm sorry. We're not lowering those requirements, which they did. You're not
they lower them all the time.
Yeah.
They lower them in the military and in the police force.
But and also the low unemployment that we had been having. This may change going into 2023.
It seems to me like there's a trend away from people really wanting to serve their community. Like it used to be this thing that people aspired to do. And now it seems like there are people that aspire to be public servants because they get these really great retirements and they make a ton of money. I mean, this kid, 19 years old, is going to make $87,000 a year
with no
experience. With no experience. I think we need to get back to people wanting to do this because they want to serve their community.
We talked about that a little bit on the economic summit when he was talking Angelo, when he talked about what he is seeing in the tech sector, the new graduates that are coming out, they don't have the sense of loyalty to their companies and they're job hopping and they all want to stay at home in their pajamas. And this generation that is coming up, it's
not even just a generational thing because there are some people our age, Michelle, that don't want to work anymore, and people that are.
Well, I don't want to work anymore, but here I am.
Well, yeah. But you know what? Have you thought about that though? What your life looks like if you retire? I'd
be bored
because I'm coming up on 60. It would take me about 3 days to be like, oh, this sucks. I need to have a purpose every day. I need a reason to get my feet out of bed and stand on the floor and boom, here I go. And so I have pretty much decided, I don't know if I'm going to be hustling as much as we do now in our real estate career 10 years from now, but I'm not going to retire. I'm going to keep doing something. I said we, because I'm assuming you'll be here 20 years with me.
I'll be here. Here I am. I will, Steve. You know I will be. We'll still be doing it's Mallet and Michelle on
Dripping Springs. We can sell your house. Hey, let's take a little break and get Sirenna in here. This is going to be a good one. I think we're going to learn a lot about her and this school security thing. It's been top of the news for a couple of years. So let's take a little break and get her in here.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallet Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at malletintegrityteam.com. And now here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome, Sirenna Cumberland, Director of Safety for DSISD. Hello, Sirenna.
Thank you, Michelle.
Welcome
you, Steve.
to the show. Yeah,
Thank you, Steve.
We're excited to have you on.
Same.
It's a a big time for a job like you have. There's a lot going on.
It is. It's a big job.
Is this the first position? Did they create this position? Nobody else has been in it?
Correct. So before me was Kurt Merrick, but Kurt wore many hats. And districts across the state are evolving to more and more to have this position. Obviously, sole responsibility is safety and security of the campuses. So Dripping Springs obviously saw that need, and rather than an existing employee wearing that hat, they decided to separate those duties and create this position. So yes, it's a brand new position.
Well,
let's get to know her a little bit.
I know. I was going to say, because
Yeah.
I know you've been in Dripping for a long time.
Yeah. How long have you been here?
So just a little story. My husband, he was a supervisor. He's a sergeant. He's with law enforcement or in law enforcement as well. He works for the Hays County Sheriff's Office in his 27th year.
Wow.
And so back when Dripping was small, truly small, probably early 2000s, late 90s, he started out here in 1997 as a deputy.
Wow.
And then he, promoted, and as he became a supervisor, a sergeant on the streets, he was assigned to the west side of our county, which includes like Wimberley, Dripping, and actually he might have been the whole county. Back then, I really don't remember what it was, probably just one sergeant, I don't know. But at the end of the day, he loved this area. And obviously, we knew closer to, early 2000s, we didn't know. I feel like God had a hand in all of this because looking back, we're like, well, how did we end up there? We were so young. But at the end of the day, he worked out here and met many people that lived out here. And so as we had children late. I was 29 and 33.
That's not that
sorry,
late, Serena.
back up. 33 and 35.
Oh, okay.
We got married at 29. Anyway, so we knew that the school was amazing, and so we decided to buy some property out here. I remember coming out here. Jordan was 2 weeks old. This is my oldest daughter.
The senior.
Yes.
She's a senior.
Yes, she's a senior this year. And so we brought her to the closing on the property. We bought some property in Henley, and that's where we were going to build. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. But at the end of the day, that property was actually in Johnson City School District.
Oh.
And, whenever she was born, we're like, oh, we'll make it work, whatever. But at the end of the day, as she got older, we decided Dripping was our area, and we wanted it to be our home. But we bought in High Point. And so, that's kind of how we landed here. Again,
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a small town in north central Texas called Rio Vista, Texas. And if you ask anybody from my era, we called it Rye Vista.
Rye Vista?
Rye Vista. So it's funny if you can tell generations by, are you Rio or are you rye?
Oh, that's
and we're like, it's rye bread. Why are we making Rio rye? But whatever.
Is that like partway between Waco and Dallas?
So it's about, so Cleburne, Texas, if you know where Cleburne is, Cleburne's outside of Fort Worth. So it's southwest of Fort Worth.
Okay.
About 10 minutes south of Cleburne. So that's where, I grew up in a tiny town in a 2A school, I was obsessed with sports, played every sport they would allow me to play.
You said something in your bio about you were a town hero for
basketball, a basketball star.
Basketball, and you walked on at Southwest Texas, and you were like the rock star of the town.
Yeah, ish. In my own mind, I was the rock star. No, I graduated high school in 1990, and 2 weeks later, June 15th, I started at the sheriff's office. And so I needed to pay my way through college. I didn't have that money, and so anyway, but I took a break from about a year after that with the sheriff's office and said, I got to go try. And so in 1991-ish, I went and walked on at Southwest Texas and said, I got to figure this out and see if I'm as awesome as I feel like I was.
What did you do at the sheriff's office when you first started?
So I started, we were, the jail was built, it's not the new now, it's the one that's over off of Uland Road, but that was new in 1989. And so I started, obviously, I don't remember what month of 89, but about 6 months to a year after it was built, they were figuring out what staff members they needed. And so dispatch, I got hired in dispatch.
So you were 18, 19 years old starting off.
Yeah, and I wasn't, to clarify, I wasn't a dispatcher. I was the assistant to the dispatcher. And so...
assistant to the assistant manager.
Yeah, so like all the jailers would come in, there were 7A to 7P, and I would be the button pusher. So I had to open the doors and get them in.
Oh, wow.
And then I'd go back up and assist with dispatch. And so I worked 7P to 7A. Then I would go to school during the day. So it was it was well needed. I mean, I had to do what I had to do, but it was fun. It was fun.
Did you know you wanted to get into law enforcement when you were in high school?
No, like I said, I was obsessed with sports, so I thought I wanted to be a coach. And so that's what my major initially was. But then, I got into it. It was just by accident. I worked at Walden Books in Cleburne, Texas, as an extra, as a job after school.
Yeah.
And I don't think Walden Books is even in existence anymore. But anyway, there was a staff member that worked for Walden Books with me, and she was from San Marcos, and she kept saying, you need to move to San Marcos, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and she was in Cleburne because her husband was a professor at San Marcos Baptist Academy. And so she said, you need to really,
Go try it
consider
out.
this. Yeah. And her mother was the supervisor in dispatch. And so she said, because I was already, accepted at Tarleton's, I was going to Tarleton.
Oh, wow.
And so I'd applied at both because I had friends coming to Southwest. And she
Texas
said,
State for
Yeah.
these
Yes,
newer
for
ones.
the-
Yeah, the
Yep.
newer ones.
Yep.
Yep.
And so anyway, long story short, she said, if I get you a job making $1,000 a month.
Oh.
Yeah. Would you be willing
Can you
to?
get me that job, Sirenna? Is there stuff?
So I still remember cashing that check and just having this
I'm
cash,
rich.
I put it in my nightstand drawer. Anyway, long story short, like I said, I just ended up there by accident or not. But yeah, started in dispatch, and then again went and tried the basketball thing. And again, at the end of the day, it was Coach Linda Sharp, and she said, you're okay. You're okay. We don't need your level right now, but you can manage. I was like, well, I don't pay bills by managing, so I went back to the sheriff's office.
We don't need your level right now.
Yeah, we're good.
Ow.
We're good.
Ow.
Yeah.
So you were in the sheriff's office as dispatch, and then you
No, assisted to the button pusher.
no, well, okay, all right.
There you go.
But-
Button pusher.
But then you've also done corrections, patrol, criminal investigations. Wow, how did you move up into that?
So, about a year after dispatch, I was like, okay, I'm good here. And really, I will be honest, dispatch is one of those that you either got it or you don't. Seriously. And very few, if they don't have it, can develop into that.
Wow.
And so I kind of knew that, and I knew that I was okay. I'm good here. I'm checked that box, and I had the opportunity to go to the jail. And so I worked in the jail, probably a total of about 5 years.
Wow.
What did you do there?
So if you ask me my most favorite job ever, it's a booking officer for the Hays County Jail.
Really?
That was my most favorite. It was during my years, I was a college student, still working at night, going to school during the day, but they were all my friends, like all of it, the shift were all, on our days off, we spent time, we're all the same age.
The
going through the same
officers were
stuff.
all your friends, not
Exactly.
the criminals.
Not the inmates, not the inmates. They're good, but no. So yeah, it was probably still my most fond memories of my entire 28-year long.
That
So
could-
you were in charge of the officers would bring somebody in that was drunk driving
Absolutely.
or something, and you'd get them processed.
Lots of college
through.
students. Yep.
Oh,
And it was-
yeah, I'm sure you
yeah,
found.
yeah.
Oh,
It was
hey,
entertaining.
you're in my English
Yeah.
class.
It was
I'm going to
entertaining.
call your mom.
It was entertaining for sure. So yeah, those were still my most fond memories. My most favorite job.
I was going to be a sheriff in San Diego County when I was much younger, and back then, if you got into to become a sheriff, you had to do, I think it was 2.5 years in their prison there.
Okay.
And that did it for me. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because I had talked to a couple officers, and they said it is just the crappiest job. He said you'll hate it. They're all, they're not They're unhappy. They're
Sure.
mean. They're nasty. They're trying to do stuff. So, and it worked out. Now I sell real estate.
There you go. There you go.
Well, it's
Yeah.
you just went from one frying pan to the other.
Yeah.
You know, Sirenna, I learned something about you in your bio that I did not know, that you're a twin.
I am a twin.
And
I'm a
your
twin
brother's name is pronounced Cy, not C. Like it's but it's spelled like C.
It is.
I guess
It is.
So
Yes.
what is that? What does that name? And your name too, because your name is unusual as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So my dad was Cy Dean. Okay, and so my brother is a junior, and so and their family's out of Oklahoma, and 18 kids. My
gosh.
dad had 18
Whoa.
siblings, and so anyway, so I don't really know out from my dad's, because I didn't grow up with my dad, and he died at a young age, and so anyway, so I don't have a whole lot of history of that side of the family. But yeah, my brother is a junior, and so yeah, that's where his name comes
So
from.
it was Cy and Sirenna.
Cy Dean and Sirenna Deanne.
My
Yeah,
goodness.
my wife Holly is a twin. Her sister's Casey, and they are so close. They talk at least once a day. Are you real close with him?
Yeah, so I was kind of like his mother figure. I was like, if we were in, of course, a small town, I ended up in his classes, and he would be at the back of the room asleep, and and so that was not easy, because then the teacher would get onto him. I would be mad at the teacher. Anyway, so we are close. We don't talk. Girl and boy is
So
probably
you were
a little
born
different.
first.
You know what? But actually, he was, and I call him Bubba. He was born first, 13 minutes. Yeah, 13 minutes before me.
Wow.
So anyway, yeah.
Twins are a special thing. It's
Yep.
amazing to me. There is some kind of connection. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's definitely a connection.
Were you worried that you were going to have twins when you?
No, it went through my mind. I know that they say it skips a generation, so I was hoping. But then the 18 siblings on my dad's side, they had 2 sets of twins in the 18 or whatever. So a little bit of me, but yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
Wow.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, so you were on patrol and you did criminal investigations. How did you like that? What was being on patrol? I mean, not a sexist thing, but as a woman being on patrol, how was that?
Yeah, so 1999. So just a little bit, I was in the jail, wanted to go through the academy, and at that time I was a supervisor in the jail, still kind of going through school, trying to get my degree. But at that time, the sheriff's office was not able to just allow me to change my hours from nights to days as a supervisor. And so and they've kind of gone back and forth. Sometimes they can allow it, sometimes they can't, depending on staffing. And so because I wanted to go through the academy, and it wasn't going to be where they were going to able to work with me. So I left Hays County, which is my home, has always been my home, and said, well, I've got to do this. And so I transferred to Travis County, worked at Travis County for just long enough to get so I worked in their jail they had different hours. So it was like 11 at night to 7 in the morning. And then I would go to the academy 8 to 5 and then go back to work. So that was a rough, it was 5 months. So it was,
Just never slept.
No, I didn't. And so, but at the end of the day, the minute that I got my certification, my peace officer certification, again, Hays County's always been my home. And so Don Montague was the sheriff at that time.
Yeah.
And so all I had to do was call Don and say, hey, I'm ready to come back. And he said, okay, got your spot. So I started back with the sheriff's office in August of 1999. And then I was in Wimberley. I was the lone Wimberley deputy. 6P to 6A? 6P to 6A. And so I was in Wimberley. Deputy was in Dripping. And so, yeah, those are interesting times.
So you were doing the night shift. Wow. There was probably only like 700 people in Wimberley, or maybe less than that.
It was a little slow.
Yeah.
It was rough, but at the end of the day, you definitely have to learn. Number one, your backup's not anywhere close.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to communicate. So at the end of the day, in the jail, I'll be honest with you, the jail kind of hones those communication skills as well.
Yeah.
So you definitely, it was good times.
Was there one particular situation down there that you remember that stands out?
Oh golly. I have to be honest, Steve, no.
Cow on the road.
Yeah, cow on the road. I remember I've never been as cold as I was when a vehicle went off Bendigo Crossing, and it's in the water. And of course, I had to get in the water, and it was below 40, 30, and I don't remember how cold, how really it was. But at the end of the day, I needed to go make sure that somebody wasn't in the vehicle. So I had to get in the water, and so I remember waiting for the trooper, Jeff Sones. I don't know if y'all know Jeff, but he's still probably at it after 40-something years. Anyway, and so he finally got there. But I was good. Nobody was in the vehicle. But that's what I remember.
The scope of what you have to do as a patrol officer. It's like you're writing tickets to saving people from burning buildings to pulling people out of the creeks. Yeah, it's a big job.
If there's a need, we're service oriented.
Yeah.
And so if there's a need within our community, we're going to do our best to address it.
I have a very important question for you because I don't want to take all of Steve's good questions. I think you have worn a uniform for probably upwards of almost 30 years now, and now you're having to wear your civvies. Is that really a hard mindset for you? Because, you can kind of go to your closet and you know that you have your shirt and your this, and there's like a whole, uniform. And now what is you? Is you your civvies or is you your uniform? Where do you feel most you?
That's a good question. Yes, I had to go, and I'm not a shopper. I don't like shopping.
Hang out with me. I'll take you shopping.
I just,
you'll learn
actually, maybe
fast.
you can take my child shopping. That would be a win-win. Because I'm like, I can't even put a face on. So I had to go. Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't say one way or the other is me. I absolutely. So for, during the middle when Steve was talking about criminal investigation, so a big portion of mine were actually out of the uniform. I was in the uniform on patrol and obviously in corrections. Then I, promoted to detective. And during those years, obviously that was from 2002 to 2013. I was, undercover, or not undercover because I was a detective. I wasn't a narcotics. I was really just, out of the uniform. And so I enjoyed that. And those were amazing years.
What kind of crimes were you investigating in Hays County in 2002? Because I know when I moved here, I just said cow on the road. That was what the weekly crime reports, that would be on there sometimes.
We long for those days.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think that we're going to get back there. We did everything. I started mine. We had generalized districts. And so I initially was Buda, and Buda was the exploding. I mean, as far as that was the biggest caseload. And so I liked being busy. And it was always, those were like property crimes, burglaries, things like that. However, when you're on call, you kind of got it all. So you either got, I remember being, I don't know, deflated, concerned, even back then, at the amount of suicides that we had. Yeah.
Oh, and it's much worse now.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And so at the end of the day, I think that as an officer, as just a civilian, not really, prior to my law enforcement, or not really because I started here and whatever.
When you're a baby.
Yeah.
When you're a toddler.
But you just don't think that that's something that's that widespread, but just the sheer numbers. And so I was just kind of surprised that, because those aren't things that you're going to hear until you're directly, impacted, like, oh, wow. So
So
I think
every suicide, you have to go and investigate to make sure it wasn't a murder that was made to look like a suicide.
Absolutely.
God, that's so sad. You got to deal with
that was when that was when I was on call. And then eventually I had a small stint with child crimes, and then persons crimes, just any kind of assaultive.
I remember the first time I met you was when we hadn't been in High Point very long, maybe a year or 2 years, and we were having a rash of incidents at the amenity center. And we were like one of the first people to have cameras at our house. And I remember her sitting there. She was having to teach us how to look at the cameras, because apparently these kids, and they were known in our district, they threw all the chemicals, all the chairs,
tables and chairs,
everything.
They did that in Belterra too.
They did everything. And so after they looked at our cameras and were like, oh, yeah, that was probably them, the mom came over and was like pissed at Todd and I because we showed Hays County the cameras, and then it was like right around, I want to say like Christmas. It was probably like a month or two later. These same kids were so pissed off at us. They took all of our Christmas decorations and they shoved them down
the drain.
The drain.
Oh,
and I caught them and I was like,
oh my gosh,
shoving my candy canes down the drain. But that was my first experience with Sirenna.
That's funny.
Bored children.
I know, but like now we're dealing with things much scarier, right? And one of the things that's kind of on the top of mind of a lot of parents, school age kids, is this fentanyl crisis that's going on.
Yeah.
And I know that Hays County has had a lot of information, I guess public information, presentations about this. And what is your perspective on this and what we're seeing in Hays County and in our schools?
Yeah, so I think that we would be, head in the sand if we think that it's not going to happen here. We've had one 23-year-old locally
that had it or that was
overdosed.
and died.
And died.
Oh my gosh!
That was probably a few weeks ago. Not connected to the school.
This is Dripping
Springs.
Okay,
Dripping
Springs.
So when we say, obviously, the most impacted community is on
San
the
Marcos.
east side of our county. Kyle, the Hays CISD school district. But again, all like Johnson, and if Johnson was impacted, and Johnson is very close to, and probably some of those students run with our students, and so at the end of the day, we're doing. My goal is being very intentional with the information that we put out, making sure that information, whether it be Anthony Hippolito coming and having conversations with our community, with our parents, with our students.
Who is Anthony?
So Anthony he's kind of he works in community outreach with Hays County, and he's kind of been the main leader of in kind of the face of this initiative, to try to meet with as many groups as he can to make sure that we're doing our part with educating our community and our students. And
Let's get him on the podcast for sure.
Yeah, I think that would be wise. And so my goal, is not just to push information out there just to push it. We're trying to really, truly, because here's what my fear is. Number one, we need to be educating parents, educating students, what it looks like, that it probably will reach our community at some point in time. But I don't want to flood our community and desensitize, and them go, whatever, we're done with this message. So that's where I am right now. And I'm not saying that we're doing everything right, because I can definitely make mistakes. But at the end of the day, I'm really, really, really trying to look at what we're pushing out, but continue the conversation, because I fear if we don't continue this conversation, it's going to hit us. So that's kind of where we are.
Awareness
right now.
is key.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is.
So now you've just been appointed the Director of Safety for Dripping Springs ISD.
Yep.
What are you in charge of now?
Okay. So again, like we talked about at the beginning, this is a big position. And when you say safety, school safety, where does that end?
Yeah.
And so my goal for this year is really trying to look at this, a new position. I'm developing along with guidance as we go. But our district philosophy is, obviously from the state, there was some things that came down this summer, these expectations of
the panic buttons and the door locks. And that's all coming from TEA or Texas School Safety Center.
So it's kind of collaborative.
Okay.
I think it comes from TEA, but then TEA uses the School Safety Center to help with hiring those contractors that are going to come out to your schools and do those intruder audits.
That's what I used to do.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that's what I used to do.
I think I knew that, actually.
Yeah. And the back when Texas School Safety Center was just a baby, my dad and I helped actually develop the audit forms that were used for that, because my dad founded the Texas Schools Risk Managers Association.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But and I know that, from what you just left a position at the Texas School Safety Center and what it has evolved to now with just the shootings that have happened in Uvalde. And I think everybody, like you're talking about desensitizing, not
there you go, Michelle.
Yeah, there you go, Michelle word. Awareness to the community of we don't want them to be numb to the fact that, yes, this can happen in our community. And what is Dripping Springs? And I think the top of mind for everybody is, what is Dripping Springs doing to protect our kids?
What are you? What kind of things are you putting into place, Sirenna?
Yeah. So, the state has kind of dictated some of that with those expectations. And so, there's some big changes on our campuses, number one. But actually some of the things that they did prior to me coming on board was single access vegetables, just one way into a campus, so that we can make sure, encourage everybody, this is the where you come, so that we can have procedures in place to make sure that people that are coming onto our campuses are supposed to be there and are
So,
safe.
like at our high school, the only way in and out of that building now is through that front vestibule.
Through that front, as far as visitors, through that front vestibule. At the back of the high school, there is a security monitor that as the students come in, he knows them well and he lets them. So that's coming from that into that
From the parking
hall.
lot area?
Yep, in the back.
And the cafeteria, what about like food deliveries and things like that? Because when I did intruder assessments, that's where I always got in, was the cafeteria.
Yeah, that's an area of vulnerability. And so, a lot, it brings, there's so many layers to this, right? When these expectations of, we have to operate this way, but then you have these deliveries that, and sometimes because of short staff, it's very difficult to have somebody back there.
Yeah.
So that's a real dilemma. We're working to, number one, if it's open, somebody has to meet that delivery driver back there. As we go forth, if we can, vet these individuals, the internal doors will be locked and there'll be an area that they can deliver and they can only have access to that door and they can do their delivery. Those are things that we're trying to figure out because of sometimes if it's during lunch, there's not even an extra staff member to go. So that's kind of what we're working.
And then you don't want somebody that's making sandwiches in the kitchen out there in charge of security to maybe stop somebody trying to.
And I always felt like when I was doing my intruder assessments, the cafeteria staff, whether it was drills or whatever was going on within the school, they always kind of operated separate from the school. They never I would do these drills and they would like, oh, we don't have to participate because we're in the cafeteria. And it's like, well, where do you think the fire is going to start?
Sure.
It's going to start here. Yeah. And so I see what you're saying. You're having a lot of people that have to come through that cafeteria because of these food deliveries and whatnot. But,
so our cafeteria workers, we have evolved. That's a good thing. And they do absolutely. Everybody participates in our drills because everybody needs to know how to respond in an emergency.
Sirenna, I think the job you have is the most important job in the school district right now to keeping the kids safe. What kind of challenges overall are you seeing? What kind of things are popping up on a regular basis?
So, again, these expectations of external locked doors, internal locked classrooms, that's a mindset, right? Like teachers are like, I'm here to teach.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for this. And I think that we all get that, right? We all don't want to be here where we are. But we still have a responsibility. We still have a responsibility, and we all have a responsibility. So that's my goal this year too. Is kind of starting to. It's a team, and if we can't get everybody on board with same mission, then shame on us.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's one of the biggest is, and I do think that human nature. Even as law enforcement, we truly in our core do not want to believe that evil's going to show up. But at the end of the day, it may. And and shame on us if we haven't done what we need to do to make sure that our kids are safe on that
Along with that, do you believe or do you feel like there is a push, feel that there's a push for teachers to carry?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think the mass majority of teachers want that nor support that. That's just my feeling. So no, I don't think that teachers are, at least in our district, would support that.
And administrators as well. Do you feel like administrators should be allowed to carry or have someone on campus that besides an SRO? Does the SRO carry?
Yeah. So right now we have 4 SROs. We added a 4th one this year.
Is that not per campus?
So the way we have it is we have 2 at the high school, and then we have 1 SRO at each middle. And those middles for the first time are now servicing the elementaries.
Okay.
And I will tell you, just to and again, being fairly transparent here, I do think that there are areas, rural areas that don't have access to sufficient law enforcement, that absolutely might be worthy and might be an endeavor that they should. But at the end of the day, I feel that we have ample law enforcement response that could be on any campus in minutes. I think that it's, a step in the right direction with getting our elementary serviced by an SRO. So that's kind of where I stay. I'm very well versed on the Marshall program. And I think that if a district, adopts that, they need to do it well.
What's the Marshall program?
So your options as far as law enforcement on campuses are Guardian. And Guardian is it's called the Guardian Plan. And it's not governed by, it's really just board approved. And board dictates what that that position has the ability to do. And then there's the Marshal Program. And the Marshal Program is governed by TCOL, the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. And so there's more governance, there's expectations. They have to take training. They have to take a psychological to ensure that they have the mindset to fill that position. So if a district chooses the Marshal Program, I feel like they need to do it well. And I've seen districts do it really well. But then obviously your options then are, guardian, marshal, the SRO, which that's a contractual agreement with the local law enforcement. We have ours with the sheriff's office. That's where I came from. I support that plan. I think it works well as long as you have.
There was pushback when you first started, though. I mean, what was
the pushback?
So 2011 to 2013, they did away with the SRO program in Dripping Springs. Back to how I ended up as SRO is obviously I had, back then I had 2013, so one was 7 and one was 5. And I was like, okay, Dad's promoting. I need to kind of focus on the family. And so I actually self-demoted and contacted Dr. Gehring and said, hey, Dr. Gehring, what are your thoughts about this? I don't remember what year Dr. Gehring came, but I feel like it was right around 2012, 2013. And so we started conversations and he implemented it back in and I applied and I got it. So I kind of got off track.
Why did people not want that?
I don't know if it was I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the times, because I really didn't have my head in the school world. So I don't know what was going on our campuses specifically. But I know the SRO position, even across the county, was growing and evolving. So it was just a perfect opportunity for me to have that conversation with Dr. Gehring.
Do you think that districts across Texas and also across the United States, but, Dripping in particular, do you think that we've taken a really good hard look of what has happened in Uvalde and have learned from their mistakes? Obviously, there was a lot of mistakes and that have happened and how we're going to change that, God forbid, if anything were to happen here in Dripping Springs. We are such a county spread out. And so what is it like at any given time? We have 3 or 4 deputies that carry this kind of area. And so if there was an incident on that scale, the fear is the law enforcement wouldn't, the mass numbers of those. Now, granted, we are closer to Austin, but the mass numbers of those law enforcement being able to get there to that position, 2 SRO.
What do you think the lessons learned were from that, from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think that, I'm very hesitant to stay on this because I don't want to, you train and you feel like you have a pretty good idea of your abilities, and if and when evil comes, you want to believe that you have the ability to respond appropriately, and so we all want that, we all believe that, and so because I've never been in that spot, I think that number one. We absolutely need training. I think the SROs, I will be honest with you, our SROs in our area, they receive more active shooter training than any officer across the state. The Alert Center, the Advanced Law Enforcement Training Center, whatever. I should know that. My husband teaches for them. But at the end of the day, they've been in existence since 2002. They obviously saw Columbine. We cannot, those, most active shooter events are over in less than 5 minutes. Okay. So we have a very small window to get either an SRO in there or get law enforcement on campuses. So at the end of the day, I feel, we have several deputies in the area on any given day. We have troopers in the area on any given day. We have up to 4 to 5 constables in the area on any given day. So I feel like wherever, whether it be up the north end of our district, Sycamore area, or down here, I feel like pretty quickly, within the first 5 minutes, I feel like we could have 10 to 15 officers on campus.
And our SRO officers, they're all cross-trained with the state troopers, the DPS sheriff, and
yeah. So, number one, we do drills. We do all our drills. We've been pretty good at that. We adopted the standard response protocol back in 2013, and that's pretty much just standard language across, the many different disciplines, whether it be, law enforcement, fire, EMS. So
the instant commands.
Yep, absolutely. And so all of us know each other, well. We do all our drills together. And so at the end of the day, every one of our drills, we have troopers, we have fire, we have constables, we have SROs, and we have the local law enforcement. So we all work together to make sure that if and when that were to happen, we're very familiar with the campus, and that we know who's responding, and go, okay, I know that individual, they know me, and now we're going to, and we're not going to we don't have that luxury to wait anymore.
Yeah.
Whether it be one officer, we train with single officer response. If you hear shooting, it's your responsibility to go deal with that. Whether you have one
That's huge.
Yeah. And so just know that we train with single officer response, 2 officer response, however many that get there at the same time, we're going to go in and deal with
That's
it.
interesting. Yeah.
Serena, what do you wish that all the parents of kids at DSISD knew about what you are doing?
Well, and to piggyback on that, you're a mom, right? So not only are you an officer, you were an officer, your husband's an officer. Yeah. What is a mom that you want mom and dad to know about their kids?
Gotcha. So number one, I want to say, and I kind of question if I would even mention this, but because I don't have statistics in front of me to kind of back it up, but I went to a training last week, and it was more on the architecture of schools, and looking at it from a safety lens. And the instructor started off with going, your kids are safe. Our kids are safe. And so at the end of the day, statistically, you are more likely to be hit by lightning than you are to be involved in an active shooter event. So I do want, because I feel like if our families and our students, they only hear that, newsworthy information of
sound bites.
Yeah.
Exactly
and so
right.
if that's all they're hearing, then they're showing up at our doors, and are they in a state to really, truly be able to learn, right? And so I want to sometimes counter that with, let's have that honest. Again, I'll back up. Is it going to happen? Could it happen? Absolutely. Yeah. But statistically, we need to balance that out with, you're safe. Okay. You are safe. Now, do we have procedures in place to keep you safe if evil shows up at our door? Absolutely. Yeah. And shame on us if we don't. Mm-hmm. But we need to have that balanced conversation of, is it likely? It's possible. But at the end of the day, do we have things in place that are going to make sure that your kid is safe on that day? Absolutely.
Yeah. If people live their lives by the rule of something bad may happen, they'd never leave their house. They're just,
it's just living in fear.
Never get on a plane. Yeah, you can't. You got to go live your life and know that the people that are in charge of keeping the kids safe are doing a really good job.
Absolutely.
So what is in store for our high school kids? I know that I think it was Logan, when he was a senior, he graduated in 2019. They had, do you remember the drunk driving program they had where they brought the wrecked car? Yeah. And I know COVID has kind of changed a lot of things, and everybody's kind of still reeling from getting back to some sense of normalcy. I mean, what kind of programs are being shown to these kids instead of just sitting in an auditorium and listening to some guy speak or watching a video?
Question.
Yeah. So there's discussion, with this fentanyl crisis right now, as to maybe evolving from, it's called Shattered Dreams, and it's a, combined effort, law enforcement, fire, district, trying to, walk through one of those critical incidents involving a DWI, and possibly a DWI, a student being involved in a DWI, and it being a fatality, and kind of walking through that whole process. And so it's very impactful. But I do know that we are in talks, and it would be in the spring around, it's more around prom time, just trying to get that message out and to, encourage our students to make wise choices.
That was one of the things I told all my kids. I said, have a great day. Don't make any, I didn't say it every day like it sounds, but don't make choices today that impact the rest of your life negatively.
Absolutely.
So, that don't drink and drive, don't take drugs and get in trouble. Just, they don't realize sometimes those simple little decisions can have an impact on every day of the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
I think that, we were talking, kind of to circle back to the fentanyl crisis, I am very naive unto what that looks like. And
me too.
If there was something that you could tell me as a parent, what should I look for in not only my child, because things are being, my understanding, my very limited understanding of fentanyl is things are being cut because fentanyl is cheaper than cocaine or whatever. And
that's my understanding.
Things are being cut with this fentanyl. So just because they think they're buying an Adderall from, skeevy Jimmy down at the high school, it's not an Adderall per se. It may have some Adderall in it, but it was cut with fentanyl. Is that what, as a parent, what do I need to be looking for?
Yeah, so the things, Anthony does an amazing presentation, and so I would say follow up with him.
Yes, for sure.
But from his presentation, so it's not like, fentanyl is in drugs that are created in a laboratory, right? For cancer patients, and it's equally distributed in that pill, right? And so that's how it works effectively. But these drug dealers that are creating these, counterfeit, and purporting it to be Adderall or which one is the
is it like Ritalin or something like that?
Percocet. Yeah, that's the one big one. And so what they do is, if you're looking at a pill, and the fentanyl will be distributed mainly on one side over the other, so it's not equally like in a lab. And so like this is an example.
Get a huge dose.
Yes,
of it.
and so like this is an example of a boyfriend girlfriend that Anthony talks about. Like they both took it half a pill. Well, he got the one like, what's going on? She got the one that was more heavily distributed with the fentanyl, and so therefore, she OD'd. They brought her back. They used Narcan. It was fine, but at the end of the day, that's why that they're not measuring it out and making sure that it's evenly distributed in the pills.
That makes sense. You just talked about Narcan, and I want you to ask your question, but I've been seeing more parents talk about buying Narcan. Is that something that you guys have talked about or recommended?
Well, you need to know when to administer.
But you can get it at CVS,
yeah, you can,
right?
You can, and there's ways to.
Are they having a drug reaction, or is it they got stung by a bee? I mean, I think we should do that. But the parents need to know what's going on.
We encourage parents to, if they feel led to purchase that. Actually, I think you can get it for free. And just think about it. You don't want to, it's that balance of, and here's what we're finding that is concerning, is that some kids they know that it's going to, and this is not in our community, just across Hays County, according to Anthony Hippolito, is kids are taking the Percocet that they know that probably has fentanyl in it, but then having Narcan to counter the effects. So that's kind of concerning, right? And so we don't want to go Narcan. Parents, absolutely. You never know when
mouth just, I couldn't.
A child might be in your home, right? As someone staying over with your child. So I would say, for sure, I wouldn't discourage.
Get it and have it around.
Just in case you ever need it.
Having an EpiPen.
Absolutely. So again, I was very concerned in that. So we're not necessarily telling students, but we're absolutely, encouraging, families.
God, it's such a different world. And my youngest just graduated, 4 years ago?
Yeah, it is. It's a completely different world. And speaking of that, Sirenna, are you part of keeping the kids safe online and school bullying?
Yeah. So, we have teams in place, right? So actually, my partner in crime, Tisha Kolek, so she's the director of Health and Counselor Services.
Okay.
And so, we together do what we can do to put education out there to ensure, that our students are safe. And so we have all of those systems in place, whether it be our P3 app, which is the Tiger tip line, which...
Oh, yeah. I remember when that first started.
What is that?
So it's our anonymous tip line. So students or parents or community members can use our tip line to let us know what's going on with our school. So it ranges,
if
for
they're
anything.
Feeling bullied or sexual harassed.
or drug use or whatever, goofy driving, whatever it is. Sorry.
That's okay.
We get that information and so it's very timely. I get it, all day, every day. So we get on it if it meets that level of crisis that we need to
That's
respond
a great
appropriately.
solution to a number of problems.
I think one of the things that makes Dripping Springs so great is the fact that we are still a tight-knit community.
Absolutely.
And, you still are going to tattle on the kid that's popping wheelies down 290. And,
when I was a kid, my neighbor would spank me if I got out of line.
I know, that's true. I mean, you don't want to create a whole generation of Karens, right? No. But we're looking out for each other. And that's what I love about this town.
Yeah. Sirenna, are parents harder to deal with now than you think before?
No, I don't think so. And I try from this new role, because as the SRO, parents were extremely important, but now from this new role, they're even more important than they were. I constantly say I value parents' perspective, because me as a parent, but I've been in law enforcement the entire time that I've been a parent here in this community. So sometimes I don't see, even though I should as a parent, I don't see their perspective initially. And so, and it's, I'm telling you, when they say it takes a village, it takes a village. We are doing what we can, but we need parents to do what they can.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I absolutely value parents' perspective and welcome that.
And I'm sure you get it on a regular basis.
You can ask my kids. My kids were always guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
That was my.
I'm
my
kind of the
parenting style.
same. I feel bad for them because I've been wrong many occasions. Like, I know you did this. I don't care.
I know you did.
And they really didn't. Need therapy because of it.
Right.
We'll get there.
I wanted to ask you about your ranch, but before that, are there any takeaways you want people that are listening to know about your job and what you're doing with the schools?
So I kind of got there earlier, and then my squirrel got off topic. But the things that I want our community to know is that our district is on it. Our philosophy is, yes, absolutely, we need to look at the physical hardening of our structures and making sure that we are limiting access to our kids and making it where if you need to be in our school, we absolutely have a process and we welcome you into our school. But then I would nearly argue just as important, if not sometimes more important, is those internal systems that you have in place. And what I'm talking about there is studies show if a student feels connected, they are less likely to divert down a pathway to violence.
Yeah,
and so our goal is always like, we are going to make sure that our kids feel connected. And whether it be us, our goal as teachers, as educators, the district is very intentional about we will connect with every school, every child on our campus. That can be difficult, right? But if we're intentional in that, I think that we can get there. But then secondly, having many programs that promote that positive school climate, that connection, that peer-to-peer relationships, all of that on each campus, whether it be Leader in Me, in elementary as far as encouraging that positive character traits. Middle school, they have Better Together, and that's a peer-led organization. And we find whenever peers can be in a leadership role, when students can be in a leadership role, wow, that's where the magic can happen. And then at the high school, whenever a student has concerning behavior and they are reaching that level of crisis, we have systems in place that are going to catch that. But what about those kids that, are not, that extreme, concerning behavior? We still want to meet them where they are as well. So we also have a program at the high school called Bright Bites, and I won't do it justice, but I'll do my best. It's a program that kind of monitors behavior, monitors academics, and all of these, and constantly kind of seeing is a student, and I have a friend that, we were talking, and this is an example of how that worked. She said, that's interesting, because I was telling her about all the awesome systems that we have in place. And she said, that's interesting that you say that. She said, my daughter, it was after COVID. I came back to school. She's a straight A student. And all of a sudden her grades started dipping. And all of a sudden she started getting calls from the AP and from the counselor going, hey, what's going on? What's going on with your girl? So again, I think that we have pretty good solid systems in place to deal with the concerning behavior. But I do think that we have systems in place to kind of, that security net to catch those kids that might not be reaching that concerning
In such
behavior.
a huge school district, it always amazes me how plugged in the staff and students, or staff and teachers are to the students.
Yeah,
That's an
we have
amazing
some
thing.
pretty amazing educators.
Well, so in our bio that we asked you about, you said your happy place is your ranch out in Roxbury, and I got the smile. See that as soon as I said it. So that's your place you like to go. How often do you guys get out there?
Yeah, so we weren't. I didn't grow up as a hunter. Mark didn't either, my husband. But in 2012, we had the opportunity to get on a ranch as a lease here, just in between Wimberley and Dripping Springs. And man, we just realized it's not necessarily it's just the life, just outside life. And so, and 3 years went by, they sold the property. So we're like, we got to figure something out. So back to the property in Henley, we're like, well, we have this. And so we sold it, and we were able to buy 100 acres in Rock Springs, Texas. So at the end of the day, that's where we're going every time. Like, we don't get out there much. My children despise it. I have to pay them money.
Oh, really? They
yeah,
don't like it, huh?
yeah, they don't. They live. They're girls, and they're like, I'm done.
They're social.
They
Been
will-
there, been
yeah,
there. Yeah,
but-
their friends are here.
They will get to a point in their life
I
where
think
they
so.
love it.
That's what everybody
Almost
says.
everybody does.
That's what
yeah.
everybody says.
Serena, I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. You are what makes this community great. I've known you for 16, 17 years, as long as we've lived here in Dripping Springs, give or take. And you are just a great addition to our school district. And we're very honored and very excited that you have our kids' best interest and our teachers and administrators' best interest at heart. But we're very blessed to have you in our district. And I couldn't think of a better person in this position. So congratulations.
Yeah, and thanks for coming on the show. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed the time with you.
Thank you both. I appreciate the opportunity.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallet Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at malletintegrityteam.com.
Thanks for listening.
If you have comments or feedback, please email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Mallet and Michelle.
Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher.
Please follow us and leave a review.
Thanks again for listening.